Yemeni officials say a UN team has met with representatives of the country's warring parties for the first time in a key port city. The team, led by Dutch Major General Patrick Kammert, arrived in Hodeida over the weekend to monitor a ceasefire that went into force in the Red Sea port city. The officials say the meeting Wednesday involved discussions about the mechanisms of the team's work and the numbers of monitors that will be required in the near future. Elsewhere in Yemen, officials say fighting over the past 2 days between forces loyal to the government and Shiite rebels in the capital, Sana'a, has left at least 17 dead from both sides. The officials spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to brief the media. So, this is a significant update. You have had 3 years of war that has killed thousands of people with the U.S.'s help, might I add. We've discussed this a bunch of times. Um, the biggest thing here is that this is the first meeting in a key port city, but also ask yourself how many sources covered this. I just read all of this within a minute, and we went over the significance of the meeting, the fact that you've had in 2 days 17 people die in these armed forces, and no coverage from the media whatsoever. We say a little Donahue. Hope you had a good Christmas. That's where every day you think it's just a peaceful scenario, and then you go and look up world news and you find out this place has been bombed, these people have been murdered. So that means on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, while if you lived in the US, we for the most part were having celebrations and whatnot. You were having these two branches in Yemen fight each other to the point where over a dozen people died, 17 at least. Wow. But again, that's why I find the constant state of war so disturbing, and the fact that it seems like we have so many people who prefer this or kind of turn their brain off to the idea that it couldn't be any way other than this. Um, I mentioned that I was talking to this one person that had kind of briefly known about the war to an extent, and they didn't make a direct comment about this conflict, but we were talking about foreign policy, and she had said, "Oh, just because a president, goes to war, it's not a bad." I was like, "Yeah, no, because, I've said before, in a lot of cases, even as someone who likes to think about being non-interventionist, if you look at conflicts like World War II, when you have a country declare war on you and then you get attacked by another one, it's indirect response to something that was perpetrated on U.S. soil. So, I debunk that theory. But when you look at American media and its lack of coverage of, just little small stories like this, and understand these are topics that are rather updates. One can consider minor and might, excuse it as something that's not a big deal. But because it's a small story that I read very quickly, it's hard to believe that, no one else could talk about this, or we can't, mention it in passing or in some little, brief thing. This is actually coming from the Seattle Times, which is a source that I go to sometimes, and it shows you that there is a thing on these television networks where they won't talk about certain issues. You go and you look at the Fox, for example. I turn them on every now and again, or CNN. Well, if you go on CNN, you're hearing about Trump. If you go on Fox, you hear about immigration. If you go on OAN, which is baby Fox News, immigration. You go on MSNBC, Trump. Just those two, and Russia a little bit. But this isn't as much a criticism of them as it is trying to point out the logical fallacies of not covering this or it not being mentioned. So going back to this meeting, if I think it's had any impact, whenever you have forces from both sides meeting and trying to settle something, it can cause a difference. But a lot of times, the people within both sides that want some solution that's not, hey, let's blow each other up until there's no one left standing, end up getting their voices usurped by those of people in leadership. And the problems is that since we don't know who the exact individuals are that participated in this meeting, it's not entirely clear to what extent this is going to change or to what extent their positions will make an impact. So a lot of it is to be determined. But hey, I welcome peace talks. When we were sitting here and talking about Trump, who, I normally disagree with on everything, I said that the two things he's done in office I really liked were, speaking with North Korea, having that summit, and also pulling out of Syria. And I had to defend him against people that were on both sides as far as political parties, Democrats and Republicans, because they were trying to say, oh, if you get out of this war, it's going to mean chaos. It's been chaos by us being over there. Um, thousands of lives lost, trillions of dollars wasted, and they still want to stay there. And that's why I say we live in the twilight zone, because you can have these conflicts last for years and people will still argue to stay over there as if it's making some difference. Um, Case in point, Afghanistan. Thank you for watching. I'll pull it off. I'll get out of here quickly because the story isn't, there's not much to unpack here. It's just people should be aware that this is going on, that things have happened to sort of continuously keep it in their mind. I appreciate O'Donohue for leaving this comment earlier. So have a good day.